Hello, guys, and welcome to the WWE, the wrestling universe, should I say, as we are taking a look at WWE Survivor Series 2018. Yes, the battle between Raw and SmackDown had commenced last month as we saw the Survivor Series for 2018. Let's see what was on the agenda this time. So the first of the matches was the 10-on-10 tag team traditional Survivor Series elimination match, where we would see, well, basically, in case you're wondering who was on which team here, well, this is what we had on the, well, this was who was on the team this year for each of the members. So, of course, on the Raw side, you would have Dash, and you would obviously have Dash Wall, and you would have, obviously, the group known as you would have Dash and we would have a couple of tag team members, particularly Dash Wallen and Scott Dawson, who are two of the. This was one of the two newest tag teams that came into Raw, and then we would also have Kalisto would also become a part of Team Raw in this match, as he would come in with his partner, and then we would also, and then of course we would also have tag team members for, and then other tag team members for Raw would include Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, who were considered the captains for the team, and then we have Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, who were the last members of Team Raw, and then Team SmackDown, which was introduced with which was led by the Usos, would have the New Day. It would have Connor and Victor, which is, of course, Ascension, and it would also include the Luke Gallows and Carl Addison, and the Colo brothers would also be included, as well as Sanity were also a part of this team. But, of course, in case you're wondering, SmackDown did win the tag team traditional Survivor Series matches. The Usos would prove themselves to be survivors once again for the tag team Survivor Series matches. They proved to Monday Night Raw that they are a very talented tag team, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Usos end up returning to Raw this time. By the time we get to WrestleMania, we end up seeing the Usos become members of Monday Night Raw as we enter the draft for 2019. So don't be too surprised if we see the Usos make their way back to Monday Night Raw this time, around the springtime of next year, because it's looking very promising. The Usos could be heading to Monday Night Raw rather soon if they're going to keep up with this momentum heading into 2019. So, yep, looks like we could be seeing the Usos leave SmackDown. If they keep winning like this, then I think they're going to definitely be heading to Monday Night Raw, regardless of who they're in rivalries with by that time. Anyways, so that is the first of the matches, which includes the Usos winning the tag team Survivor Series match. Then we would have the women's Survivor Series match, which would contain the following members. If you want to know who was on Team Raw, of course, that was obviously led by Alexa Bliss. Yes, Alexa Bliss would lead Team Raw, which would include Mickie James, Bayley, Sasha, Tamina, Nia Jax, who are all considered the members of Monday Night Raw. And then for SmackDown, we would have, obviously, Asuka, along with Mandy Rose, Sonya Devlin, Naomi, and Carmella. All of these represented Team SmackDown. But, of course, Nia Jax would prove herself to be the survivor for Team Raw, making sure that Raw comes out victorious in the Women's Survivor Series elimination match. So, yes, Raw continues to dominate. Well, the Raw women's team continues to dominate the SmackDown women's team for 2018. I mean, it looks like SmackDown women's teams are obviously not doing too well for themselves for the last couple of years, or the last 2 or so years since Raw and SmackDown have been facing each other at Survivor Series. But they've tried. They're trying, but it's just a matter of getting the right people in the right team. It's kind of their issue right now. And then, of course, we would have the battle between the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship, where we would see the team between Seth Rollins, who is the Intercontinental Champion, facing off against Shinsuke Nakamura, the United States Champion. And of course, you'll probably be wondering you're probably going to be wondering who is the better person between these champions. Well, Seth Rollins proved to Shinsuke Nakamura that he is the better person and ends up winning the match for Monday Night Raw as being the better champion between himself and the United States champion. So Seth Rollins continues to prove that he is the man when it comes to the Intercontinental Championship and on Monday Night Raw. And then, of course, we would have the battle between Raw Tag Champions versus SmackDown Tag Champions, who are obviously the Authors of Pain at the time, would take on the Bar, who are the current SmackDown Tag Champions. And, of course, the Authors of Pain proved their dominance against the Bar and managed to come out victorious for Raw, as Raw's Tag Champions would beat the SmackDown Tag Champions at the Survivor Series. So, yes, another win for Monday Night Raw certainly came out of fruition. And then, of course, we would come to the Cruiserweight Championship match where Buddy Murphy, who won the Cruiserweight title just before the Survivor Series, would take on Mustaine Allah for the Cruiserweight Championship. But Buddy Murphy, of course, managing to find a way to come out victorious as the Cruiserweight Champion and continuing to prove his agility as the champion in the 205 Live as the current Cruiserweight Champion. And then, of course, we would have the traditional men's Survivor Series match for 2018. Now, you're probably wondering who is on the team for this match. You're probably going to ask. Well, for Team Raw, we have Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley. You would also have Dolph Ziggler, Finn Balor, and of course the temporary general manager for Monday Night Raw, Baron Corbin, who was basically to represent Monday Night Raw for Survivor Series. And then eventually this would lead to the SmackDown, Team SmackDown, who would end up being led by, obviously, The Miz, would feature Shane McMahon. Or, in fact, Samoa Joe was pretty much member of SmackDown's team, you could say. But, you know, they were joined also by Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy, who also came as members for SmackDown. And, of course, now this is kind of what's really interesting, because this kind of, to me, felt like The Miz was becoming more of a good guy than he normally has been in the last couple of years, because it was after this match, The Miz has kind of looked up to Shane McMahon a little bit more compared to previous weeks, which may suggest that maybe, just maybe, we could be seeing a face turn for The Miz. Could The Miz finally become a goodie as we head into WrestleMania 34? I mean, or 35, should I say. I mean, who knows? I mean, could The Miz finally become a good guy following this match as we head into the new year? I mean, it's possible. Even though he's not the goodie, he doesn't act like a goodie properly yet, I still believe that there is obviously him becoming the goodie is starting to show following this match, because he did look up to Shane McMahon following this Survivor Series match. And also the fact that, Daniel Bryan took a mick out of him during his Miz TV shortly, a couple of weeks after this match took place. So to me, it's kind of setting up the possibility of Miz possibly becoming the goodie against Daniel Bryan in the maybe seeing The Miz win the Royal Rumble next year. I mean, is it possible for The Miz to do it? Could Mr. McMahon finally give The Miz the Royal Rumble win he never had before? I mean, is it possible? Is The Miz ready for the Royal Rumble win? I mean, I know it sounds a bit daft to think about, but at the same time, it's not impossible for The Miz to win the Royal Rumble next year. I wouldn't be surprised if they choose The Miz, because especially if The Miz was to win the Royal Rumble, that would be a huge deal to not only his career, but also the fact that we could see a face turn happen with The Miz, and maybe fans will look up to The Miz more if he was to win the Royal Rumble next year. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, this could set up the Miz face turn pretty much. We'll see. But either way, SmackDown didn't win, unfortunately. It was Raw who won, as Braun Strowman would end up winning for the team. But however, he would get attacked by Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Baron Corbin, which kind of set it up the match between Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin for TLC because of a vicious assault to Braun Strowman shortly after the match. But yeah, that was, like I said, you never know. Miz could become a goodie after this match. I think there's huge potential for this to happen because it seems to be teased at the moment that the Miz could become a goodie at some point, and I think we could be heading to that direction as we head into the new year. And then, of course, we would have the battle between the Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, who, earlier this year they were considered friends and stuff, but they would have to represent their brands. Obviously, Charlotte had to represent SmackDown in this match. But, of course, it was after the match, during the match, you could say, Charlotte kind of lost it and literally took a steel chair right into the back of Ronda Rousey and literally destroyed her with a steel chair. Ronda Rousey didn't even know that was coming, but man, oh man, Charlotte Flair literally snapped at this point. And it was kind of very telling how you have Charlotte Flair attacking Ronda Rousey. You would have Becky Lynch taking digs at Ronda Rousey leading up to Survivor Series. This is kind of, to me, trying to say maybe the four horsewomen of WWE, maybe Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha, and Bayley are all going to reunite at WrestleMania to challenge Ronda Rousey's four horsewomen. I mean, is it possible for the four horsewomen from UFC to face the four horsewomen of WWE at WrestleMania? I think this is certainly setting up to that idea of, these two major factions possibly colliding at WrestleMania. I mean, what's the possibility? And also, you'll probably see why I'm saying that, especially when we get to the TLC review. You'll start to get a picture of maybe we are going to see that sort of battle between the two four horsewomen, one from UFC and one from the WWE's current four horsewomen who haven't joined forces properly in WWE because they've been kind of separated in their own things at the moment. I mean, Bayley and Sasha are their own team. You got Charlotte and Becky who were at each other's throats for most of this year, but it's worth possibly thinking about. And then, of course, we would come to the main event, which would be the Universal Champion Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan, or should I say the new Daniel Bryan. Yes, Daniel Bryan's a heel. Didn't expect that one to come out from WWE's playbooks, but hey-ho, the new Daniel Bryan would finally challenge Brock Lesnar as he would represent SmackDown as the current WWE champion to face Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. But as you would imagine, Brock Lesnar still coming out strong at Survivor Series in these Raw versus SmackDown battles as he would defeat Daniel Bryan. Even though Daniel Bryan came close to making Brock Lesnar tap, it was not enough because Brock Lesnar is going to use all his strength to come out of any situation, and Brock Lesnar kind of proved it again with another F5 to Daniel Bryan was enough for Brock Lesnar to defeat Daniel Bryan in this champion versus champion match. And I just thought it was just amazing, isn't it? Just to think that we have Brock Lesnar challenging Daniel Bryan. This is the match that a lot of people wanted to see, and even though Daniel Bryan wasn't wasn't victorious in this match, hopefully one day we'll see a moment where Daniel Bryan will probably end up eventually defeating Brock Lesnar. and Brock Lesnar will end up possibly either tapping or losing to Daniel Bryan by pinfall, depending on when that moment will happen in WWE, if that moment will ever happen between Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar. I would imagine at some point down the road, we'll see a Daniel Bryan victory over Brock Lesnar if Brock Lesnar manages to challenge Bryan again in the future. But yeah, this was definitely all the highlights for Survivor Series, and it looks as though Monday Night Raw, even though with the exception of one match, which SmackDown was dominating the most, which was the tag team traditional Survivor Series match, the majority of the night was pretty much won by Monday Night Raw, pretty much. Monday Night Raw dominated most of Survivor Series once again this year, and it looks as though that SmackDown kind of fell flat in certain areas, but at least they're going to hopefully try to improve in those areas as we head into the new year, and hopefully they'll get some new faces join the team, and we'll start seeing some new members joining the SmackDown team next year and people joining Raw's team next year. So we'll see how things develop as we head into the spring of next year. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I will catch you guys for the talks of TLC 2018, the final pay-per-view of WWE 2018 this year. And then we'll obviously be having some talks about the upcoming shows for WWE this week. And of course, I've got a Christmas special dropping on Saturday, which is going to be a review for WWE Tribute to the Troops 2018. So we'll see who's going to be competing in this year's Christmas show for WWE. So see you then.